Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
All right. This is episode 325 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abul-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
And I am Nicole Wakeland from The Road Reflected.
And Mr. Baldwin will be joining us in a little bit in progress. Something from his day job just came up a short time ago, and so he's got to get that knocked out. So he'll probably be with us in about 15 or 20 minutes.
The worky work stuff.
Yeah. So in the meantime,
yes.
What have you been driving?
Well, gosh, because it's been about 4 weeks now, let's drive another Subaru Crosstrek. So this time, and I was trying to look up and see which one I had, because I literally did have it, I think almost exactly a month ago. I think I had a different trim last time. This time I have the Subaru Crosstrek Sport, which has there's two engines in this one. The base trims have a 2-liter 4-cylinder.
Crosstrek comes with two different engines?
I thought it, what? No,
and they put one in the back, or?
Not one in the back and one in the front. Stop. You made me question myself. I'm like, wait. So this is now you made me now, you know what? You go first now. No. So this has a 2 5-liter 4-cylinder, 182 horsepower and 170 pound-feet of torque, and a CVT, which is kind of noisy, not horribly noisy, a little bit noisy. But I like this one. I think this more powerful engine is actually better. I like this. I think it's a good little vehicle. I like, it's funny. We were just talking about this off air, but the infotainment in this was something that actually my husband immediately got frustrated with, because this has the 11.6-inch sort of tablet style infotainment screen, which works fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but the controls for the heat and the AC are buried into it. They're at the very bottom. Mm-hmm. And then when you tap it, it expands a little bit. So if you can always kind of see it there at the bottom, tap it, and suddenly it's your full screen and you can really adjust stuff. And somehow we got it in the air conditioning. It's 32 in New Hampshire right now. The air conditioning was like on full blast. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it's a blizzard inside the car. And as we're panicking, trying to find it, as our faces are freezing off, it took a second to find it. And I thought, gosh, I'd really just like hard buttons to just turn the temperature up and down. And you were saying a certain OEM has decided to do that on their vehicles again.
Yeah, just before we started recording, a news story popped up on my RSS feed from Autocar, the British magazine, that Hyundai just announced in the UK that there's a mid-cycle refresh of the Tucson, which one of the few things that I think we all universally complained about on the Tucson was they had the center touchscreen, and below that there was a panel of capacitive controls for everything, and no physical controls in the center stack. And they have Hyundai's listening, actually across the entire Hyundai Motor Group. They have clearly been listening to user feedback on their HMIs, because there's something else that we'll talk about later that they also improved. But they have ditched that bottom half of the touchscreen. They've gone to the one large display panel like they have on a bunch of the other current Hyundai vehicles, and they have an array of physical controls for climate control, just as it should be.
I think that's, and it's really, it's not like a Hyundai problem or a Subaru problem. It's an everybody problem. Not. So it's just interesting that it's one of those things okay, yes, I suppose if you're driving the car every day, you're used to it. but your passengers aren't necessarily. And it's always easier to just grab that like a button to control it. So that was my little frustration immediately as my icicles were dripping from my eyes. I was like, oh my God, how do I turn down the AC and why is it on full blast? I think the driver that dropped it off was punking me. But anyway, so the Sport in the middle of the lineup, the lineup runs from about $25,000 to about $32,000 ish. This one kind of sits in the middle of the lineup, but it's priced closer to the top. It's priced at just over $30,000. Standard all-wheel drive, which is part of why it's so darn popular in New England because everybody wants all-wheel drive. This year, the Crosstrek also does get the new Wilderness trim this year, which they've been rolling out to the Subarus as sort of their, I don't know, most off-road worthy of every trim. Like it has a little more ground clearance than the other versions of the Crosstrek. This one still has 8.7 inches of clearance. So it's, it's not, I don't know, is this a crossover? Is that what you call it, Sam? It's like, I always think of it as a wagon, but
they would call it a crossover. I mean, it's a slightly lifted 5-door hatchback is what the Crosstrek is. It is the Impreza with slightly more ground clearance and black plastic wheel arch extensions, to make it look a little more SUV-ish.
A little more SUV. So, but I like this because it gives you some of the SUV perks. Like there's a little bit more ground clearance. You have that versatility for carrying cargo. It's great for, it's just the way it's shaped, that sort of wagon-ish kind of style to it. It's really great for cargo. It's really comfy for people. It's plenty roomy. But it's not so high. Like when you get into true SUVs that they can be so upright and so high, even in a real crossover. For people who have mobility issues, they're tough to get into. This is so easy. This is like getting in and out of a sedan, even though it's not a sedan. It's just the way it's designed. It's super easy for the ingress and egress. Look at me with the fancy words today. So I mean, I appreciate that about it. Driving it actually it's fine. It's not a sport. I mean, despite being called a sport, it's not a sporty car. It's not the world's most engaging handling on the planet. But the thing is, it does what it's supposed to do. It's this nice, versatile little crossover, and it's durable. And I appreciate that the interiors of Subarus, they feel like you could really make a mess of them. And once you wipe everything off, they're going to be okay underneath all that. Like you never have this fear that your kids are going to destroy it, that your dog is going to destroy it, that you're going to destroy it when you fumble your morning coffee or whatever. And I really appreciate that sort of, it looks good. It feels good. They're comfortable. The seats are super comfy, but yet it has that durability that you feel like it can really, it's a kind of vehicle like everyday real life people can live with this and not worry about ruining their car. Unlike what I had a Mercedes the other week, and it was like, dear God, how do you put children in this beautiful thing? Here I'm like, have at it. Yeah. Here I'm like, have at it, kids. Sit there, break out your chicken nuggies and your French fries, spill your milkshake. That's okay. I'll wipe it all up and they'll be fine.
If you have that Mercedes, what you do is you buy a Crosstrek for your nanny to drive.
You
just tell her, meet us at this location. And so the nanny brings the kids in the Crosstrek. And you and your mate can take the Mercedes. You
take the fancy Mercedes. You look like you're living large. The nanny shows up. You just sneak the kids and this is our car. Don't mind that little orange Crosstrek over there. So I do like the Crosstrek. I think it's all new this year, and I think they did some nice updates to it. I think it looks good. It's a little more quiet. Like it's nice. It still looks and feels essentially like a Crosstrek. The only thing I'm not real keen on, and this is only if you get the base trim. Talking about screens, they have the dual 7-inch screens on the base trim of the Crosstrek instead of the one, and it's literally just the base trim. Again, they work just fine, but I do find like those two screens, and they're separated. It's not even like they've taken, like they're not even really close to each other. They're sort of set.
Yeah, there's a bezel that goes around both of the screens.
It makes it feel weird. It makes it feel very, very dated to me. It just doesn't feel like what we're doing with infotainment and with screens right now. So I'm not keen on that. So I would stay away from the base trim of this unless it's really an affordability matter. Otherwise, just go one step, at least one, if not 2 steps up to get the more powerful engine, because you have to be in the middle of the range to get the more powerful, the 2.5 versus the 2. So I like the Crosstrek. I liked the Crosstrek a month ago. Guess what? Still like the Crosstrek. Has not changed. My opinion has not changed in a month.
And speaking of Subaru, I was at the LA Auto Show last week, and
Did
of course,
they have puppies?
They had puppies. They had
Aw.
some wonderful puppies. And guess who I ran into at the puppy corral?
Who?
Our good old friend, Rebecca Lindland.
You
She's-
saw Rebecca. She was at the show. Yes, 'cause
Yeah,
she's working for
she's working at
Cars.com.
Cars.com now. And she will be joining us hopefully soon as a guest on one of the episodes coming up soon. So yeah, Rebecca has returned to the land of the living from wherever it was that she was. And
wasn't she in Abu Dhabi? I want to say Abu Dhabi.
Yes, she was. She was in Abu Dhabi for a few months. And
for a
of
brief
course, before
stint.
that, she was at Fisker.
Yes.
So now she's back in California. And we were enjoying some puppies from the Dove Project. When Subaru when they go to auto shows, Subaru they partner with a local shelter or dog rescue organization, and they set up the puppy corral and they bring in adoptable dogs for, and they do this throughout the public days of the show as well.
Right. And all the different auto shows. It's not just LA. They do it in New York.
Yeah.
They do it all the big shows. I don't even know. Maybe they do it at small shows for all I know.
They could. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
They certainly do it in Chicago. This year at Chicago, our friend of the show, Paul Eisenstein, he actually came home from the Chicago Auto Show with a dog, with a puppy that he adopted, a black lab.
Which he just loves. He's so cute talking about that puppy. Paul's like this really smart guy and really straightforward. He's like, oh, I got a puppy. It's just adorable.
Yeah. And this was in February. He brought home Miles. When he brought home Miles, he was 15 pounds. He's now over 100 pounds. Yeah. So this is a big dog, but
slightly larger than when he brought him home from Chicago.
Just a little bit, but he loves that dog. And they had some wonderful dogs when Rebecca and I were taking a little break at the puppy corral, the Subaru puppy corral.
I missed out on the actual auto show. I had to come home for adult responsibilities and miss the actual show. Which
unfortunately turned out you couldn't do anyway.
Actually did come through.
Oh, did it? Excellent.
We had a 5 p.m. deadline, 4:45. Hey, we can do it.
Okay.
So my grown-up responsibilities that were scheduled inconveniently did happen because I got mad. I'm like, it happens now or it never happens. So yeah.
And Robbie has just popped up in Zoom here. Hey, Robbie.
Hello.
Robbie.
Well,
did you take care of your work stuff?
I did. I have 3 minutes to spare. Look at that.
Nicely done.
And Nicole just finished telling us about the Subaru Crosstrek that she had again after less than a month.
Like a different one, different trim, different color, but hello again, Subaru.
Hello again, Subaru.
Hello again, Subaru.
What have you been driving, Robbie?
Nothing. I've been traveling, and I just had a car drop off today, which I drove to the store to pick up Red Bull. So that's
Do you have wings now?
I do have wings.
Okay, just checking.
Jittery wings.
All right. Well, since you didn't have anything, let me dive into what I drove.
Yeah. What are you driving this week, Sam?
So I had the 2024 Hyundai Kona limited all-wheel drive. So this is the new second generation Kona, which looks radically different from the first generation. It's quite a bit larger. I think it's about 6 inches longer than before. And the limited is the top trim level. So it's got all the goodies on there, including a 12.3 inch center touchscreen, the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder turbo, which has 190 horsepower. And that engine is also in the N line version. 8-speed automatic transmission instead of the CVT that comes with the SE and SEL trims. And I like driving it. It was really good. My one complaint about the first gen Kona was the back seat was a little tight. And if you ever needed to take anybody, it was fine for small kids or smaller adults. But if you wanted to take your full-size adult friends somewhere, it could
your Robbies.
Yeah.
Your full-size adult friends.
They might feel a little bit snug in the back seat. But that is no longer really an issue. And as with many vehicles, from generation to generation, they tend to get larger and larger. And then, eventually the automakers introduce a new model at the bottom end to backfill, to get you that small one again. And so, undoubtedly the next generation of the Venue will get to where the first generation Kona was, and so on. But the new Kona is a good size, I think. The Limited, which I had, is a little bit on the soft side as far as its responses. It doesn't feel quite as sporty, but that's why they have the N-Line version, which has the same powertrain, but I think is probably a little bit tighter in its suspension setup. But it's fine for normal everyday driving. It's got a nice compliant ride for the Limited, and like I said, it's got everything in there. And at that price, the Limited starts at $31,650. The one that I had was all in for $34,695, including the destination charge. And I'm just trying to see what it had. Carpeted floor mats. So let's see. The Monroney actually lists the price as $33,150. Which is about almost $2,000 more than what the Hyundai website says. So it's possible that between the time that this vehicle was built and the Monroney was printed out, they may have made some price adjustments. So if you go right now, I know why, because this that 31,000 is for a front wheel drive model.
There you go.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. So if you add in the all-wheel drive, that's an extra $1,500. So that's
all those extra wheels.
That's right. So that's where the price difference comes in. But now you've got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support in there. It's got all the goodies you would expect. It's got blind spot monitoring and lane keeping assist and adaptive cruise control. So all the good stuff is in here. Like I say, I think it's a really good size for a daily commuter vehicle. It's small enough that it's easy to park, but still well packaged. So it's got a usable back seat and usable cargo area. So I think this is a really good choice for a lot of people. And if you don't need that extra bit of power in there, the base Kona SE does start at 24,100, which is quite reasonable by today's standards. Even at $30,000, it's still pretty reasonable. But the SE starts at 24, and then there is an electric version coming, a second generation Kona electric, and I don't think that they have that one priced yet. It's not available yet. It's still a few months away for the U.S. market, but that one will be available soon. So that's the Kona, the 2024 Kona. The other thing that I got to drive when I was out in Los Angeles, because I'm on like you, Nicole, I'm on the North American Car and Truck of the Year jury. I got a chance to spend a little bit of time with the Volvo EX30, which you talked about last week.
Yes. So what did you think of it?
I really like it a lot. Yeah. I'm still not 100% sold on the all touchscreen interface.
Yeah, how did that work out for you when you not having the instrument cluster? Did you get used to it?
That part I was fine with. Because it's a portrait style screen, and they've got all that information in a bar across the top of the screen. So it's relatively close to your line of sight when you're driving. And it's not a huge vehicle. It's actually quite compact, nicely compact. Yeah. And so it's not too far away from looking straight ahead. So you don't have to look way away from the let's put it this way. You don't have to look as far away from the road to see that information in the EX30 as you do if you're driving a Model 3 or Model Y, which has a landscape screen, and that a lot of that information is down lower. So you do have to look down more to see it. In the Volvo, it's fairly visible. And if you're used to driving any of the previous generations of Toyota Prius, which always had that small, slim display across the top of the dash, across the top center of the dash, it's pretty similar to that. So again, not ideal, but it's there. The thing I would, if I had to complain, would be about the climate controls, because you don't have physical climate controls. But you can also control all that with Google Assistant as well. So so it's not too bad. But
just yell climate at your car.
And the one I drove was the rear wheel drive. I think it's the plus trim. It's the mid-level trim, the mid-grade trim.
Okay.
Which will be priced around $38,000 in the US. The base trim is about $35,000. And the interior is quite nice. I mean, you look around and you can see how they did things with the design to reduce the engineering costs and make it simpler to assemble. The doors are fairly plain. The window controls are in the center by the center armrest, and unfortunately, like the Volkswagen ID4,
it has a button.
It has a button for the rear.
What are you saving? What money are you saving by doing that?
Millions of dollars.
You're saving one button because you have to push another button, so you're saving one.
Millions. Bazillions of dollars, bazillions even, I would hazard a guess. Mm-hmm.
But the 275 horsepower of the single motor rear wheel drive version is way more than adequate. This thing is surprisingly quick. And I think people are really going to like this thing when it starts to arrive at dealerships. And it will be available through the Care by Volvo program, which is their subscription program. So you can sign up for that. And then after it's either 6 or 12 months, I think you can switch. If you want to switch to a different EX30 or a different Volvo model altogether, you can do that, and it's just a flat monthly payment that includes your insurance and maintenance and everything, including the car payment. And it's one of the few automotive subscription programs that actually seems to be reasonably successful.
Yeah, a lot of them just don't. They fall flat.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be ready to buy a replacement for our Honda Civic hatchback, probably in about 1.5 to 2 years from now. So probably like in the 2025 timeframe. It's almost 2024 now, and this one will definitely be on our short list of vehicles to consider.
Wow.
Cool. A lot of room in the back for dogs.
There is room in the back for smaller dogs. I mean, you could.
Would Daisy fit back there?
Oh, Daisy will fit back there easy.
Right.
You could fit. If you put a seat cover on the back seat, which you'll probably want to do, you could fit a Bernese Mountain Dog in that back seat.
All right, I'll go buy one of those.
I think you could. I'd agree.
Oh yeah, it'll fit. And that's one of the nice things. When I got to the car, it was parked next to an XC40, and on the outside, it is quite a bit smaller than an XC40. It's lower, not quite as. It's about I think about 8 inches shorter. Mm-hmm. But because the EX30 is built on a dedicated EV platform, as opposed to the XC40, which it's a modification of an internal combustion platform, the XC40 is not packaged quite as well. So they really took advantage of the packaging efficiencies of an EV in the EX30, and it feels like there's at least as much, if not more, interior space in the EX30 as there is in the XC40.
Cool.
So a ringing endorsement. You like that one?
Ring-a-ding-ding.
I did like it quite a bit. Yes. So it's definitely a good vehicle.
I agree. I really like it too. I think it was great. I was very impressed by it.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Between client meetings, managing your business, and everyday tasks, who has time to worry about website hosting? With Kinsta's managed WordPress hosting, you don't have to. They handle the technical stuff, delivering lightning-fast load times, enterprise-grade security, and 24/7 365 human-only support. Simply switching to Kinsta could make your site up to 200% faster. Kinsta's custom dashboard makes managing sites easy, with powerful features designed to save you time and effort. Plus, their free expert-led migrations ensure a smooth transition. Ready to see why Kinsta is trusted by thousands of businesses? Get your first month free at kinsta.com. That's KINSTA.com. Kinsta, simply better hosting.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
All right. Also, there was a lot of stuff that happened in LA last week. Unlike the Detroit Auto Show, there was a lot of activity, a lot of products announced, but before we get to those, there was one product that was actually announced the day after the media day in LA, and all they did was release 2 photos of it. Or they may not actually. They're probably not even photos. They're probably renderings, CG renderings of the new entry-level Cadillac that's coming, the Optic, and this is their small electric crossover that is coming at some indeterminate future date, at some indeterminate price, with some indeterminate amount of performance, unknown number of motors, unknown battery size. Basically, we don't know anything about this except what it looks like.
That
it's
one,
orange.
The 2 pictures,
Yes.
It comes in orange. We know that.
Orange.
Or at least they've rendered one in orange.
They've rendered one. Yeah, that's true. They've rendered one in orange.
Yeah. They promise that they will give us more information on the Optic sometime early in 2024.
So literally all they gave us was we have a car.
Yeah.
Well, an image.
Yes.
Not even. I mean, I don't feel like sitting there staring at this thing to see if it's a rendering or not. But
I'm
an
just
image.
reading the story you wrote, Sam. There's so much expected to have. Probably will, might, maybe.
Probably, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
We think possibly.
I just speculated for a few hundred words.
You did. It's That's funny. But what else were you going to do?
Because they literally, I asked if there, is there like a press release to go with these photos?
No.
Nope. Is there any other information you can share with these images? Nope. We'll give you more information in 2024. That's literally all they told us.
That's
fine.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, thanks for
right.
the information.
Here you go.
Guys.
So that's the next Cadillac EV that's coming. Well, actually, we don't even know that.
I was saying it doesn't even say, you don't even dates.
We don't even know if it's
anything.
going to be.
You've no idea. There could be
6 years from
Cadillac.
now.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what? GM's not going to get in trouble this time with pricing or timetables because we don't know
because
anything.
we're not going
promising you
to. We're not.
nothing.
Yeah, we're telling you nothing at all, other than this is what it's going to look like.
nothing.
It's like saying we'll have more cars, guys. Thanks. Okay. All right. When? We're just going to have more
Cadillac.
cars, guys.
We're going to make some more cars.
We're going to make more cars.
All right.
Yeah, this summer when they unveiled the Escalade IQ, Cadillac did say that, and we're going to show you two more Cadillac EVs before the end of the year. This is one of them. So presumably sometime between now and the end of the year, we will get two more images of another Cadillac EV with no information.
Oh wait, there's a Cadillac. That's another one. They're both Cadillacs. Oh.
Yeah, there's going to be some other Cadillac EV coming.
I was hoping it was going to be like the little electric truck that I saw when I went to the little electric what do you call it, like off-roader? Well, not off-roader, but like Jeep type vehicle.
Well, that probably wouldn't be a Cadillac anyway.
Or the hint at a Hummer pickup truck. Like a smaller one, of course, but none of those are Cadillacs, which means we won't see them.
Hummer smaller. That just is broken. Hummer and smaller in the same.
Well, they did the H3. Remember that?
Yeah, there was the H3, and in 2009 they also had the HX concept.
And then how much longer was it before the whole company went?
About 6 months.
So maybe don't go smaller.
Yeah,
stick to what you know. Big.
Mega.
Yeah.
Mega.
All right. But what we did learn about in California was a couple of new Toyotas, the sort of new Camry for 2025, which is despite what they proclaimed, it's not all new. They call it a 9th generation Camry, but it's really a mid-cycle refresh because
it's an 8.5.
I was going to say 8.5, 8
the structure and everything. And when you look at it, if you look at a picture of the 2025 Camry next to a 2024 Camry, all the side sheet metal, the greenhouse and everything is all unchanged. The front and rear are changed. There is an all-new interior. But
that's nice.
Yeah. And, the front end design, incorporates some of the ideas from the new Prius, so you have the same kind of C-shaped headlights, running lights there on the front, so it looks a lot like the Prius but with a bigger grille, and it's hybrid only this time.
That makes sense.
Which I feel like
why even bother with and
the hybrid would be, and then I don't know, I wonder what the take rate was before, like how many people where they don't have as many EVs. Everyone's like, oh, Toyota has to move to EVs. Toyota isn't moving ahead as much as they should be. Toyota isn't. Okay, fine. We're just going to make Camry hybrid only.
Apparently, it was about 50% hybrid.
Was it?
Before, yeah. It was a very, very high take rate of hybrids. And so now it's going to be 100% hybrid. Toyota overall, across all of their vehicles right now, is about 25% hybrid.
25%, huh?
Yeah.
The trucks. I'm like, what's not? Oh, the trucks.
The trucks.
Well, no, the trucks are hybrids too.
But people aren't. But people, truck buyers are
probably not. I don't know. I wonder do they break out? They probably do somewhere. I'm wondering how many of the trucks.
Yeah, they do. They actually do break out their hybrid sales. But they.
That's cool.
The Tundra has a hybrid version of it, although it's not a particularly fuel efficient hybrid, but it is a hybrid. The Sequoia is hybrid only. The Sienna is hybrid only.
Mm-hmm.
The Camry is now hybrid only. And I would expect going forward, we're going to see more and more of their models as they get updated, drop the gas engines and just go hybrid only, or, hybrid and in some cases plug-in hybrid variants. Like the Crown is also hybrid only. There's no gas only version of the Crown.
Right.
But the Camry is getting the 5th generation hybrid system. So it's the new updated system that's also in the Prius. but with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder instead of the 2 liter that's in the Prius. And it's also available with all-wheel drive, electric all-wheel drive. And that's a first for the Camry hybrid. It's 234 horsepower for the Camry. Then
nice little sedan there.
Yeah,
I mean, good. I mean, it's the Camry's like people aren't.
The Camry's always like, oh, it's a nice sedan.
It does its thing, and it's going to do its thing a little better than it did its things before, and it's not going to suddenly be this amazing, exciting, like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. We must all go buy one, even if we weren't thinking about it. But it's going to continue to do what it's been doing for years, which is just be a nice, solid, reliable, comfortable sedan.
Basically run forever.
Yes,
it's
until you're done
1 million years.
Yep.
1 million years. Yeah.
The other thing that Toyota showed off with the alongside the Camry was the SUV they've been teasing for the last few weeks, which is not really an SUV. It's a crossover. It's actually a tall wagon version of the Crown, and it's called the Toyota Crown Signia. They've shown this previously in Japan. It's now coming to the U.S. And I think it looks good. What do you think?
I like how it looks. I think it looks so good. And they've said now the Venza is no more, correct?
Right. The Venza is going away.
Like they were
like,
no, the Venza's staying. And
the fancy,
now
the fancy RAV4. I didn't understand the Venza.
Yeah.
Like apparently neither did anyone else.
Yeah,
it's
you
just
and the rest of us.
It was just like, okay, we have the RAV4. Here's a little bit better. Not a lot better, just a scooch better. Yeah. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just get the RAV4?
Just different styling. If you didn't want something that looked quite as chunky and as rugged as a RAV4,
Venza looked a little more like it just looked prettier. It wasn't as like you said, it wasn't as rugged. It was a little more streamlined, a little prettier. And you still wanted a Toyota. You still wanted something in that wheelhouse, that kind of sizing, sort of, but you just wanted it to look a little bit nicer inside and out.
I guess
a little bit.
It was it was the Toyota, like the deal with Toyota is like every 3 inches they have an SUV that's 3 inches bigger than the previous SUV.
Well, now they've ditched it. Now they have the Signia, but I keep wanting to call it I know it's just Signia, but Insignia is what I want to say. I want to put an EM in front of it. I know that's not what it says, but.
Somebody else is using that as a trim level though. Who's got Insignia?
Insignia? Is there a trim level?
Isn't that Volvo?
Oh.
Sounds
like it. There's somebody. Yeah, there's somebody that uses Insignia as a trim level on some of their vehicles. I can't remember who it is.
I'm Googling.
Crazy kids.
Opel.
One interesting detail though about the Crown Signia is it's the same platform as the Crown, but the Crown's the Crown Sedan. The Crown Sedan is has 2 different hybrid variants. It's got the standard hybrid Synergy drive with the naturally aspirated engine and the eCVT, and they also have the Hybrid Max system, which has the 8-speed automatic and the turbocharged engine. And they're not offering the Hybrid Max in the Crown Signia, at least not for now. I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or two they add that as an option, as an extra cost option. But for now, it's launching just with the standard hybrid system.
That's fine. Where are you going in the Crown Signia that you need that extra oomph?
Fancy places, you never know. You never know.
Everybody always wants a little extra oomph.
Little oomph.
Yeah. This is America, after all.
They want it, but if you don't give it to them, they won't know they're missing it. That's the thing.
They'll never know the difference.
Like if you offer it to them, like, oh yeah, I gotta get that. Like if you supersize, it's like supersize. Like you don't really need the supersize, but if someone offers it, you're like, all right. But if they didn't offer it, you're just sort of like, oh, I'm happy with the amount of food I've gotten.
Yeah. Well,
no, that's not true because I would never be happy with the amount of French fries I gotten. Always the French fry container is too small. Even if supersizing didn't exist,
just double. Just ask for an extra. Ask for an extra order of fries.
Still, then you can't ask for 2. You have to get 1.
Why?
But what if they gave you an extra cookie instead?
No,
wait, I don't know. Why is 2? Why is 2 greedy?
Are you? If you have 1 giant,
you're in your car. You're like, I need 2 fries, and then you pour them both in the bag, and then you just and you put them in your passenger seat with the heat on, so your fries stay nice and warm.
Oh my God, I have actually turned on the heat to keep my food warm, and I'm like,
that is the only reason for a heated seat in most in some areas of California.
Will that keep your food warm? Does it act like a little heater and keep your pizza warm?
I do it all the time.
I always turn it on when I put a pizza on my seat. Always.
That's what it's for.
You eat pizza while you're driving?
No, I'm driving just when you bring the pizza home.
Oh, okay.
And you put it on the seat next to you.
Okay.
And you have to drive home from the pizza place.
You turn a little heater on.
So you turn the heated seat on with the idea that it's going to heat through the cardboard in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and make
it'll keep
warm.
the cardboard, instead of it getting cold, it keeps it warm. That's why I don't like heated seat controls on doors, because I can't reach the passenger side.
Yeah, but your arms are long enough, Robbie. You should be able to reach it.
But most of the ones that are on doors are usually luxury vehicles, which are typically a little bit wider.
Bigger. Okay.
But like the Kona, it's just like buttons that are right there in the center console, so I can just smack that button and boom. Anyway, it's important. These are important things that we have to share with our readers.
No, right. Keep your pizza warm with those heated seats, people.
That's a life hack.
Yep, life hack.
Okay. So always order the car with the heated seats that you don't, especially if you don't have to pay a subscription for them. So you can keep your food warm.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Especially fries, because once fries get cold, they're no good.
That's true. That is
just trash.
Yeah. All right. California, state of California, back in the early 90s, they came up with what eventually became known as OBD2, the onboard diagnostics port, which is a standardized port that you can now find on all new cars. And part of that standard is that they also had to standardize the messages for fault codes. And so anybody can plug in a device into the OBD2 port on your in your car, and when your check engine light comes on, they can read the check engine faults, or read whatever faults there are. If you've got a misfire or some throttle body not working properly, like I had on a car once, all kinds of things.
Gas cap isn't tight enough. Literally a thing that'll happen.
Yes, and that'll turn on the check engine light. So that became mandatory in 1996, and that's still what they use on all new cars. But with EVs, they have a lot of different fault codes when diagnostics detect a problem. And so California has now come up with an update, which will almost certainly become a national standard because they sell more vehicles in California than everywhere else, with a new port for EVs. And they will have to have standardized diagnostic messages that everyone can read. And they'll be standardized across the industry. So, if you've got a bad cell in your batteries, it should be the same fault code, whether you buy a Tesla or a Cadillac or a Hyundai or a Volvo or whatever other car. What do you think?
Yes. As someone who works on cars, it's so much easier if I can just know what's wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like in general, standardizing things, like because EVs are so new, there's so many ways that we can even just measure very many things. That we're all sort of, things aren't as concrete in terms of numbers and measuring and standards. And I feel like that's something that needs to happen for EVs.
All right. Well, we settled that. So everybody,
we've settled the problem.
Immediately start installing these new OBD3 ports, or whatever they're going to call them.
OBDVs. OBDevs. Which sometimes I will call the OBD port the ODB port, which is Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang Clan.
Not the same thing.
Which is not the same thing.
It is definitely not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Go listen to some Wu-Tang Clan after this podcast.
Okay. There were more EVs announced at the LA Auto Show. Yes. Kia showed off a couple of concepts that they previously shown in Korea, and they brought them to LA, the EV3 and the EV4. Interestingly, they did not bring the EV5 here, which I'm not sure why, but I guess we're probably not going to get that one anytime soon. but the EV3 and the EV4, the EV3 is a small crossover, kind of actually probably pretty similar in size to that EX30. And the EV4 is a compact sedan, which looks like it's roughly the size of a Kia Forte, which is their compact sedan, but a lot roomier inside because, it's an EV. I did have a chance to sit down and talk with Steve Center, the chief operating officer for Kia America. And that interview will probably be part of next week's show, unless you are a patron, in which case it'll be showing up in the next couple of days in your Patreon feed, like a bunch of other stuff that I've been dropping in there in the last couple of days.
Ooh.
But
we use that money for pizza.
And we keep it warm on the heated seats of the press cars we drive.
Yes,
we
exactly.
use to make sure that our cars have heated seats,
So
and then we buy pizza.
warm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you think of the EV3 and EV4?
I like the EV.
Which one's the SUV? The crossover, is that the
Three.
EV4?
The
three
three.
is the crossover.
It's a little baby.
Just like it looks like an EV9. You went scooch.
Yeah, it's a little baby EV9.
It's a little baby EV9, and I like the EV9, so I like the little
It's the-
baby EV9. It's the mini me of EV9.
It's like I'm sure it's bigger than a mini, because it kind of looks like a mini. It's
but
not.
like-
It's
Actually, I think it's not too far off the size. Maybe just a little bit bigger than like a Mini Countryman, or
Okay,
not.
so it's
all right.
wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, that's there we go.
Yeah,
I like it.
it's a
I
good
dig
size.
it.
Are these actual real pictures, or these all? I'm trying to say
These are all renderings.
Renderings. Well,
Yeah.
they're all renderings, right?
Yeah,
But
these
they
are
had
all
the
renderings.
actual cars at the show.
Do they look
Actually,
just like
they-
these renderings, or some of these
Yeah.
real?
No, it looked just like this.
It did.
They just
Okay.
printed them out.
They were just cardboard. They just did
cardboard
some
cutouts,
origami.
You couldn't touch them, or they
Da-
fell
da- da-
apart.
No, they wouldn't let us touch them or sit in them. But you can see from the photos that the way they've got the seat pedestal set up. There's lots of room, lots of foot room around there. These are surprisingly spacious.
I like how Kia's doing their interiors these days with their EVs. I just think they're making such funky use of space and materials to make them look absolutely cavernous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago at the show, they showed off the EV9 concept, and the production one was pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So I would guess that the production versions of these cars are going to stick pretty closely to the designs that we see here in these concepts.
That'd be cool. I like how these look. I really do like how both of these look. I think these
It'd be
look
funny
really
if the EV3 ends up coming out and it's like $25,000 and it comes out before the new Bolt.
good.
And that wouldn't surprise me.
It's like,
Oh gosh.
yeah. See, of all the companies, I think that's going to come out with that the replacement for the Bolt, I feel like it's going to be the Hyundai Motor Group, because they're like, we just keep making EVs and we're making money on them. So I don't know what the rest of
Exactly.
you all are doing.
So just keep going. You gotta
Whatever
keep
you all are
going
doing,
on.
that's whatever. It's
Yeah,
them,
I think-
them and
I suspect that the EV3 is probably going to end up being a replacement for the Nero EV,
yeah.
Probably.
because
Because they look like they're going to be pretty much the
Yeah.
same size.
Or one out for the Nero
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pour one out for the Nero.
Good
but
little car.
these, it's a little more interesting looking than the Nero, and I think people really like this, especially if they can price it right.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
They get,
Which
yeah,
they
they
normally
get
do
this.
pretty good. Their pricing normally is pretty
They're pretty
well figured out to make the
savvy.
market. Yeah.
They're very savvy.
All right. Speaking of pricing, the Lucid Gravity.
Gravity.
Lucid released some images of Gravity a couple of years ago, but they showed the production intent version in LA, and it's a fair bit different from that one was a little boxier, a little chunkier
Mhm.
than what we saw last week, and this one, the production intent version, is more like the Air.
It just looks like
But
they
it's
took
also
the
different.
air and there's like a little valve and you blew on it and it just got bigger. like a balloon. You're
I do
There you
like
go.
how it looks. I like
But
how the
there are
I like
some
it.
sedan
there are
looks,
some
so-
notable changes to it too.
Oh yeah,
relative
but
to the Air.
but design language wise,
Yeah.
you're not gonna
You can definitely tell it's a Lucid.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're not messing around with like, let's make it a little bit different. Nope.
I like that they did that. I like that they kept it like, okay, it's not like we have 20 cars we got to make look alike, but we're going to make these two look great.
Yeah.
And they're going to look like they belong together, like they're part of the same team.
Yeah, I got to go to Newhall where their HQ is. I always want to say Newark for some reason. I don't know why.
It's near Newark.
Yeah. And no, it's really nice. It's nice inside. I got to sit in a little frunk thing, and it's a lot of room.
Yeah, so they've got this fold out pad in the frunk, so it becomes kind of like a seat. So you can, and they've got molded in cup holders in the front fender. So when you open up the frunk, there's a couple of molded in cup holders there on each side. So you can sit there in the fold out the pad, sit there in the frunk, watch the sunset, and have a glass of wine with your significant other.
Yeah, no, it's like Peter came out while I was Peter Rawlinson, the CEO, and he's like, "This is mine." And he's like, "We're gonna make this a little bit longer, and they're gonna add some lights and some and optional speakers so you can listen to your stereo and stuff. So it'll be really nice." But it's the idea like tailgating, but with your frunk. So Frunk-Gating, I think was the term they threw at me. I have it written down in my notes somewhere.
Yeah,
but
and the interior, that's actually changed quite a bit from the Air. Well, first of all, with the second and third row seats folded down, there's about 7.5 feet of cargo space behind the front seats.
So much room.
Yeah, they were showing it with a surfboard inside and a mountain bike.
Just so much room.
Yeah,
inside. And it folds flat. The third row kind of folds almost like stow and go, where it folds into the little the cavity behind the third row, and then you put a little thing, and then the second row just folds. So it folds flat, so you have all this room to put all your stuff in.
All your stuff's in there.
Yeah,
everything you could want.
And then for the infotainment system, they took this, the steering wheel, they kind of squished it down to make it sort of squarish. And then now there's a 34-inch OLED display that just spans across. So in the Air, you have this 35-inch panel, but it's actually 3 separate displays in there, with the one in the middle between that you can see through the steering wheel, and then one on each side, a smaller one for controls on the left, and then the infotainment screen on the right. Now it's just one long 34-inch continuous OLED display, and it looks amazing. And what they call the pilot screen, which on the Air can retract into the dashboard, is now fixed in place. So it doesn't move anymore. So I'm sure that they probably realized that, this is probably adding maybe a little bit of complexity that we didn't really
need.
And in the center console, it has all those little things you can put your stuff on, and those slide deeper into the cavities. So you still have some space, but you just don't have the coolness where you can push that button and have it slide in and then throw your stuff back there and have it slide out, and then you forget about it. So no, it's what's interesting was when I got into it, because they give us a little presentation about it, and the steering wheel and the screen, we moved the screen higher, we've sort of smushed down the steering wheel, and Derek, he told me, he's like, we went through 30 different steering wheels to come up with this. But when I sat down in it, I was like, oh, this just makes sense. That was I was like, well, why hasn't anyone else done this? Why isn't or recently, versus trying to throw a yoke in there, which is, that was one of the reasons for the yoke they gave for Tesla, was that, well, with the yoke, now you can see all of the infotainment screen, but you could have just moved the screen higher up in your eye line and still giving people
logic, Robbie.
Something where you can put your hand on top of, even though that's not how you drive. But when you're,
But the way they have the screen set up in the Model S, you can also see it through a standard circular steering wheel.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
that's what they actually do now. They stopped doing the yoke. They went back to a circular steering wheel.
Yeah, but that was their reasoning. There was a lot of, I think we know how that whole thing worked out. But no, I mean, it'd be really interesting, when to actually drive it with that steering wheel that Lucid has, and really sort of put it through the paces and see how it feels versus a more traditional steering wheel. But I do dig the fact that because I have to, in the BMW, the camera is in the dash cluster.
Mhm.
Well, I usually have the steering wheel too low the way I drive. So I always have to put it higher than what I feel comfortable with in order to get that thing set, or the car just yells at me.
Yeah, because it's set up kind of like a notch on an iPhone in the top center of the instrument cluster. And so, yeah, if you put the steering wheel too low, it will block it. Which is
like, I can't see you. What's happening? What are you doing?
You clearly aren't there. Pay attention.
Oh my God, he's dead.
Right here. I'm right here.
He's just a neck.
His head is gone.
His head is gone. He's been decapitated.
I did get a little design walk around from Derek and record that on video, and that's on the Wheel Bearings YouTube channel. And I'll include that link in the show notes, as well as a link. Dave Flint, who's the head of user experience, did a walkthrough on the infotainment system inside the car. So both of those videos will be linked from the show notes.
Multitasking. It does multitasking now.
Oh, yes. That was one of the complaints we had about the Air.
You can have the map and the audio and the media at the same time.
Yes. Multitasking.
Yeah.
Ooh, we didn't forget to say that because we complained about that a lot.
Yeah.
They did it. I forgot about it. No, wait.
I also had a chance to chat with Mike Bell, who is the head of software and electronics at Lucid, as well as Eric Bach, who is the chief engineer. And while I was talking with Mike and Eric, Peter Rawlinson popped in. So when you listen to the interview, you will hear him pop in the middle of that as well for a couple of minutes to talk about the Gravity. So that will be at the end of this episode. I'll tack that on the end.
That is Peter's MO. I'll be talking to like somebody else on
he
the
just
team,
pops in
and he'll just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like a cameo. I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" And we're like chat for a little bit, and he's like, "Hold on," he'll go do something, and he'll come back. He's like, "Well, it's great to see you." And he'll disappear again. I'm like, he's like Batman.
It's probably one of the friendliest automotive CEOs I've met.
Oh yeah, super friendly, super smart. Like their videos where he like explains all their technology are so well made. And he could have been a teacher. I mean, he wouldn't make as much money, but he could have been a teacher.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media.
Okay. Next, the Honda Prelude that I saw in Japan a few weeks ago was in LA as well. They brought it to LA, which they also confirmed that the Prelude is going into production as a hybrid coupe. But again, we don't know exactly when. We don't know for sure which markets, but the fact that they did bring it all the way to Los Angeles is probably a pretty strong hint that they'll sell it in the US.
Yeah, that's a long way to drive a car.
Yeah, especially a concept. But they confirmed that it's going in production as a coupe, as a hybrid sports coupe.
It'd be nice to have the Honda
Prelude back. Prelude. There are no bad Preludes. Every generation of Prelude is awesome in its own way.
No pop-up headlights, though. Didn't the Prelude have little pop-up headlights?
Well, not the first.
Not all of them didn't. Yeah,
not all of them did.
I drove briefly. I learned how to drive a manual on a stick shift on a Honda Prelude with pop-up headlights. Boop, 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 boop.
Actually, I think there may have only been one generation of Prelude that actually had the pop-ups, because I think the last generation went back to fixed headlights.
There's first, second, third. I think it might have been second and third, maybe. Oh, let's all look at the Prelude. Everyone get on the internet. Let's all look at
Honda Prelude pop-up headlights.
Wikipedia. Honda Prelude Wikipedia. Let's see.
That's what we're all doing.
Whose wiki is faster?
Thank you for listening to our podcast while we look up things on Wikipedia.
The 1983 had pop-up headlights.
The second and third,
The second generation and the second and third had pop-ups. The other three generations did not.
All right, I was right.
I just remember being so panicked about learning how to drive the car and not stalling it that I kept meaning to hit the turn signal, and I was managing to turn the headlights on and off like I was hitting the wrong thing, and it was like pop constantly. We were driving at night. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's awesome. It's like you're winking at the world.
It was just winking. Wink, wink, wink. Don't know how to drive this. Get out of the way at the time.
All right. The last item for this week. The last news item from LA was the launch of the Genesis GV80 Coupe, which, as with every other luxury SUV, you've got your wagonish version, and now there's a fastback version that gets rid of some interior space in the name of style. But what's more for the GV80 Coupe, they're adding in as an option the electric supercharged V6 that is also in the G90, which is quite a powerful engine. But I think the bigger news is that for both GV80 body styles, they have a new interior, and there's a very important update. So like a lot of other Hyundai and Genesis and Kia vehicles, they're going to this one large curved display, and that's fine, whatever. But the most important change to the GV80, can you guys spot it in the photo?
I'm staring at the photo. Did it not have a little ball thing? No. Which one?
There was one major thing that we all complained about with the GV80, which was the center console controller. It was flush with the center console, and it had that knurled ring around the edge of it. It also rocked, and so to spin it, you had to press hard enough on the outer ring that you oftentimes ended up clicking in addition to turning it.
They changed it up.
They changed it up. They made it stand up apart from the center console, like they do on some of the other models, like the G80 and the GV70.
Yay!
So
they listened.
It'll be more functional. And Robbie, before you joined us earlier, we were talking about a story that just popped up on Autocar just in the last hour or so about refreshed Hyundai Tucson that they announced in the UK, and presumably it'll be coming here. And it's also getting rid of the touch controls on the center stack and going to restoring physical controls for the climate controls.
Well, someone like at Hyundai was like, yeah, buttons are the thing, way to go at some point, like in the last 6 months. I forget the exact timing, but I know I was like, oh, good.
Yeah.
Way to listen to your owner, buyers, customers. That's the word.
Yeah, customers.
Buy things, customers. Yes.
The money peoples.
All right. We did have a listener question that I forgot to paste into the.
There's nothing there. It's empty.
Yeah, I just got to find it here. I have it.
Okay, you guys, all I can see is a cursor frantically moving around on our file.
Oh, that's me. I'm a twitchy
Robbie's
person.
just being twitchy.
I do this a lot.
All right.
Oh, you're gonna make me dizzy, man.
Keep watching it. Watching it. It's magic.
Patrick writes in by email, and you can send in your questions at feedback@wheelbearings.media, or you can even record them. You can always record your audio, record your question or comments, and we'll use that in the show as well.
But it must be in the form of a rap or a sea shanty.
It does not need to be in the form of a rap or a sea shanty. You can just speak normally.
But we'd like it better if it were. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just saying.
Anyway. Patrick asks, first, love the show. Pretty sure I found you because of the Twit Network. Listened to you all on the back show. Listened to all of the back shows. Wow, Patrick.
Wowza.
Thank you. And we're sorry. And haven't missed any of the new shows yet. Keep up the great work. Not very serious question. Seems like you never test drive any cars from Porsche. Do they not loan out cars to the media? I think that their continued use of buttons for AC controls and the radio makes the cockpit one of the best.
We never have Porsches here in the Northeast, ever. So for us...
I'm going to say...
yeah, go ahead.
So Yeah. So here's the deal with Porsche in where I live. Porsche has a big center down in LA. And getting a car up here for the very few automotive journalists who still live in the Bay Area is kind of a pain in the butt for them. I've been told that if I were not lazy and I went down to LA, they would give me a car to drive up here. But I don't know if lazy is the word. Busy. If I had more free time, I could go down and they would give me a car. So there you go.
We just don't get them in this area.
Yeah, they do occasionally have them here in the Detroit area, but it seems that they mostly just give them to the bigger publications, to Car and Driver and some of the road and track guys that are still around here, and a couple of the bigger websites. But I have asked to drive a Taycan, and they said, yeah, absolutely, we'll definitely get you in one, and then somehow it never quite happens.
I've driven every Taycan, but that was before I guess talked to them a lot. I guess about them, or I didn't talk to them, which is very weird. So what are you doing? Talking to the car, man. That's how you get the best experience. Yeah. So no, they're all there. I really like the Taycan. If that helps, I don't know if that helps at all.
But it's those really high end OEMs, and like Porsches are not inexpensive cars, and they don't make bazillions of them like they do some other cars. So to have cars for media fleet, it's not going to have the kind of media fleet that Toyota has. Or
yeah,
like
so they have a more limited number of vehicles.
Yeah, they have a
available.
limited number of vehicles, and they don't loan them out as readily, and it's just a limited number. And so I think that's part of it.
And for example, you may not get them at all in New Hampshire. We certainly don't get them here in Michigan during the wintertime. So it's kind of from April to about September, October is when they're
narrow window when you can drive them in places like Michigan and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So with all that
we
said,
get them during construction season.
Yeah. With all that said, I drove a Porsche this past weekend.
Did you really? No way.
Is that when you were in Vegas?
I was in Vegas. They took us to the track. I drove a 911 GT3 on the track, Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
There you go.
It was outstanding. There's video of it. Of me driving. Ooh. And I realize when I'm on a track, I have resting track face. This looks like I'm frowning. Like I have a slight frown, but I'm just like, okay, I got my apex kind of hit here, but I lift, half brake or a little bit brake. Okay.
You're focused.
Push. Yeah. I'm focused because I'm trying to like do a good job on the track. Because I'm on the track and you don't get to do that very often. So when you have the time, you want to okay, go. All right. Brake, hard brake. All right.
And you definitely do not want to mess up, especially with an expensive car. But just with anything that they let us,
car, you don't want to mess up.
When they let us loose on a track, what?
Oh yeah,
you don't want to be spinning off into the weeds
we
or into the.
All look very, very focused because it's a combination of truly paying attention to what you're doing and also please don't crash.
You don't want to be that person that every other automotive journalist talks about for the next 15 years.
Remember that one time?
Remember that time?
Or Nicole
that Robbie,
or Sam? Yeah, we don't want to be that one time when
whoever it was that crashed the M3 competition in South Carolina the other week.
Oh no!
I heard about that. Did hear about that. I didn't hear the who.
Man.
I did hear that
they never said who it was.
To the runoff.
I did not.
Like an actual.
No, it was on the road.
Mashed.
Crunched up the front end of the car.
Oh man! Well, maybe they'll bring it to Palm Springs next year, so because I don't want to go all the way to South Carolina. I like Palm Springs because I can. They have thermal and they have nice roads and yeah.
All right. Anyway, serious question: when you talk about miles per kilowatt hour or similar stat for EV range, could you compare it to MPG somehow? Maybe take an average price of electricity in the U.S. I live in Massachusetts, and gas prices average $3.30 a gallon, so I can easily figure out the cost per mile. It seems like $3.50 a gallon for gas. That an EV costs about half as much per mile to drive. Do you agree?
I feel like electric prices are so varied around the country.
Yeah, so you have to worry about the problem is the variables about is the pricing. Well, I mean, gas prices are variable around the country too, so that's the other weird thing. I can't. So here's a little thing I did with my cars. I have a BRZ. Let me see what the the thing for the BRZ, 200 BRZ, EPA.
You could kind of
and so my BRZ gets 30 miles per gallon highway. The Kona Electric that we have gets about, we average probably about 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, I did this computation using the idea that gas was $5 a gallon, and that I'm paying, because I live in Northern California, and PG&E charges a lot for electricity. I'm paying 25 cents or 24 cents is when I did this 24 cents per kilowatt hour off peak to charge my vehicle at home. So there we go.
That's figured about out twice what I pay here.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. So all our prices are higher here. Everything's more expensive in California because we have the beach and the mountains and birds and stuff. So I figured out how much it would cost to drive each vehicle 100 miles. To drive my BRZ, it was $18. To drive my Kona, it was $6. No, $8. Anyway, no, $6. It was $6. So it was
so 1/3.
Yeah, so 1/3. Now that's going to be variable. It's probably going to go up to half in certain areas based on the vehicle you drive but this is again, it's like 3.7-ish, and that's when I'm driving. If I drive the Kona, my wife drives the Kona. As soon as she gets in, she puts it in sport mode, and she leaves, and she doesn't turn up the regenerative braking. She has it on like level 1, and so she's just flying around everywhere. And when I drive it, I put it, I just drive it in regular normal mode because I'm just driving on the freeway 99% of the time, so I don't see the point in sport mode at that point. And I put it on the regen all the way. So, it sort of fluctuates, but based on your driving skills, it's going to be at least half, I'm assuming, based on your gas prices and your electricity prices. And this, again, it's way cheaper to charge it at home. So, that if you factor in the fact that you have to pay X amount of, let's say $1,000, $700 to get that put into your house, it's the whole thing. Or you plug it into your wall, blah, blah, blah. Overall, though, once you have that sort of infrastructure created at your home, you're just going to start, reaping the benefits of EVs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in general, somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of the cost per mile is a good rule of thumb for EVs versus equivalent gas vehicle. So, if it costs you $10 to drive 100 miles, it might cost you somewhere between $3 and $5 to drive an EV the same distance. Now, that is assuming you charge at home. If you charge at DC fast chargers all the time and you're not using the free charging that, if you buy a new EV, a lot of times you get some free DC charging. If you're paying for DC fast charging, that gap closes way up, and it might end up being, depending on where you're charging, it could end up being almost as much for the EV as it does for gas. Like when the guys at TFL did a test about a month or so ago, they got a Silverado EV and did a towing test with it, and when they went to charge it back up at an Electrify America station, 350 kilowatts, they had compared it. They were running it side by side with an F-150 hybrid. And it ended up costing them about the same for electricity to drive the same. They drove about 200 miles towing a trailer, and it ended up costing them roughly almost the same. Like it was within $1 or $2, about $100 roughly for both of those vehicles, because DC fast charging is way more expensive if you have to pay for it.
It's about the prices here in Northern California. I've seen 43 to 56 cents per kilowatt hour for DC fast charging.
Yeah, and Electrify America charges 48 cents a kilowatt hour if you're not on their subscription plan where you pay like $4 or $5 a month. Mm-hmm. And then if you do that, then you get they drop it down to 36 cents a kilowatt hour. And they're starting to vary that based on region. But yeah, if you're charging at home on a level 2 charger, then it's a lot cheaper. And we will, at least I'll try to give some MPGE numbers going forward when we have EVs to give you little basis for comparison. You can also look at the fueleconomy.gov website and look at the EVs. They do list they list the kilowatt hours per 100 miles efficiency, but they also list the MPGE, which is there's a formula for converting based on the energy use, for the equivalent of a gallon of gas. And those numbers are all listed there for each vehicle, each EV on fueleconomy.gov.
Yeah, it's a weird calculation, and it I don't know. I still like the kilowatt hours going forward, but when we're still dealing with a gas world, then that helps people to figure out, oh well, if I buy this car, it gets 104 miles per gallon. Yeah. So like, all right, okay, I understand that. But going forward, I really think we're moving to miles per kilowatt hours, because if it's higher, then you're doing better.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for this week?
No, that's it.
When does this episode go live?
He's
Tomorrow.
trying to decide. Tomorrow.
Okay. Well, if it goes
unless you've got
tomorrow,
something you want to talk about that's under embargo, I can hold it.
The embargo ends at 2 a.m.
Oh,
tomorrow.
okay. Cool.
Oh,
So what do you got?
good.
So I went to Singapore.
Oh,
Beautiful Singapore. Beautifully humid Singapore, where the main attraction while you're there is getting out of the heat. Like everything is just geared towards getting out of the heat. But while I was there, I was in Singapore with the fine people of Hyundai, and they took me to their little innovation center, their Hyundai Motor Group. They have this facility there where they're building Ioniq 5s and the motional Ioniq 5 robotaxis. They're building the Ioniq 5s just for Singapore. And if you know anything about Singapore, it's very, 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 very expensive to buy a car in Singapore. The cars are expensive. You have to there's this crazy tax. You have to sign up for a lottery. So they're not going to sell a lot of vehicles there. This facility I was at, their target is 30,000 per year, which is probably more than Singapore needs, which means they'll probably start selling them to other regions, to other areas in the region. But they had some really interesting ideas on how to build cars. Instead of a assembly line, they had these things called cells, which were essentially here's an area where now we do this. This is the area where we put the we marry the battery to the vehicle, and this is the area where we put the seats in and the dash. And if you've ever been to a traditional assembly line, things like dashboards and seats, those are typically put in by humans, because there's variables as you're putting these things in. The car's a little every car isn't exactly the same, so there might be a little bit some discrepancies in where the holes are by a few millimeters, or there's this discrepancy in where the car is along the line with a few. So it's really difficult for robots to do that. Whereas because the car is sort of moving. Or even when it's stopped, it's still it didn't stop in exactly the right place because of the nature of how the assembly line works. Hyundai, they showed us where they have robots that are actually doing that. It puts the dashboard in and screws it in, and it's putting the seats in and it's screwing it in. And so they're we're using regular robots, that we're always using, but we put computer vision on them. We're going to be using AI, and the idea is eventually, they still aren't there yet, because we talked about those variables where there's little itty bitty differences. But at some point they were talking about maybe 3D scanning a vehicle as it's going down the line, cool. So that when it gets to every section it gets to, the machine, the robot knows that the variables of this vehicle versus the variables of the vehicle ahead of it, or the variables of the vehicle behind it. And they're doing all this in this very low yield facility, but some of these things they're hoping will eventually make their way into other larger facilities, like the Meta plant they're building in Georgia. And they also let me sit in a car while they did the Sky Track, which is a track on the fourth floor of this building. There's a little loop. And then they're They have plants. They're going plants. They're like hydroponics. It's a lot. It's quite a lot. So there'll be an article on Ars Technica and on SAE in the next few days. So check those out. But no, it's really interesting because you see these other automakers are sort of pulling back on their EV. What they're doing with EVs, and Hyundai's just going like, you know what we're doing. So you know what we could think about. In addition to building all these factories and selling all these cars, we're going to build a factory just to learn how to make those other factories better while we're building EVs. We're just going to have this whole test bed area in Singapore to figure out, the best way to build EVs in these other factories. So it was really interesting, and it's one of the concerns, of course, is like, well, if you have a robot doing this, what happens to that human? Some people will still have to, the people who have to run, they have the control center to like keep an eye on all this, which you don't typically have. But you also have to take into account that Hyundai's also at this meta plant. They're also building this giant battery facility. So there's going to be humans that'll be working there. So, and I saw their little robot Spot because they bought Boston Dynamics.
Oh, they had one
this
running
guy,
around.
he's putting things, he's tightening things on this vehicle that's above his head, and he has this exoskeleton, so it reduces fatigue on his arms while he's reaching above his head. And then Spot would come up behind him and take pictures and it was doing quality control, which you're like, oh, that's cute, except for the fact that at the end of the little head, it's like 3 prongs, and they open, and then it takes the picture. So it looks like this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to...
Like it's about to bite you?
Yes. It looks like it's like a Venus flytrap or like something from Aliens. The most terrifying thing, just to take a picture. And I'm like, why does that even need to be there? Just have the camera on the end. Why does it need that little protection?
Just to freak you out, Robbie.
I think the designers at Boston Dynamics deliberately try to make their robots as freaky as possible.
Yeah, it's like you get like little trots over, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cute. And then it's like, rah! It's got these little prongs that open up.
Did you ever see the episode of Black Mirror called Heavy Metal?
Yes,
No.
the essentially the Amazon episode.
Yeah, and they have a robot. They have robots in there that are very much like Spot.
Yes, they're and the idea is that they're essentially security guards.
Yeah,
and run amok because society has collapsed. But no one turned off the security guards.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's pretty. Anyway, go watch Black Mirror, and also listen to Wu-Tang Clan, and I don't know, check out what Hyundai's doing.
All right, cool. And don't forget to go to and go get a pizza. Keep it warm on your heated seats.
Exactly.
And go buy some merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Get several different styles of shirts.
Awesome.
Lots of different bold colors that you can choose from. Some different designs on there. I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing my my Miata one right now.
Very
nice.
Yeah, in red. So, yeah, go get that. If you feel like supporting the show and you want an ad-free version of it, don't forget Patreon. You can support us on Patreon. We got a bunch of patrons there, and thank you for that. And
thank you.
Get ad-free versions of the shows, and you'll get other content before everybody else does, like the design walk-around videos with Derek Jenkins and with Dave Flint, and the interview with Mike Bell, Eric Bach, and Peter Rawlinson.
There you go.
And that will be coming up right after this, as we say, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Hey everybody, it's Sam. This week, following the reveal of the new Lucid Gravity electric SUV, had a chance to chat with Mike Bell, the head of software and electronics at Lucid, and also Eric Bach, the chief engineer. And while we were chatting, Peter Rawlinson, the CEO and CTO of Lucid, also popped in for a few minutes to offer some comments about their new vehicle. So enjoy. All right. So, Mike, you are in charge of software for Lucid.
Software and electronics.
Software and electronics.
Yep.
And obviously, with modern EVs, actually modern cars in general, but particularly with EVs, software plays a crucial part of that.
Absolutely.
And when the car first launched, a few glitches in there, but it's gotten a lot better since then. And I guess talk a little bit about, kind of what is the overall strategy for Lucid in terms of software, the software architecture, the electronic architecture?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the biggest thing, if you want to be a modern EV car, or I think even just a modern car company, you have to do the software and hardware yourself. The days when you can farm it out to tier 3s and tier 2s and then have them combine stuff, you end up with something that's not compelling. So from the beginning, the majority of the hardware and software in the car is done in-house. And we've been really, even since the launch of the Air, we've been building the capability up. A lot of my senior team from Apple has come on board, joined me, and we, as you say, we've made pretty big improvements to the software. Gravity takes it even to a next level. But the key thing for us, we take a systems approach. So we don't take hardware and say, okay, great, what can we do with it? We figure out what's the user experience. How do we want the customer to interact with the car? What's it like? Derek's team and Eric's team and my team, the 3 disciplines. We then sit down together and figure out how do we take a systems approach to make this real. So the hardware and the software and the design all work together. And because we do it in-house, we can worry about the littlest details. And that's really key. You can't do that by throwing together third-party pieces.
So from an architectural standpoint for the software, is this what we think of as a middleware-based OS, where you've got an abstraction layer between the applications and the underlying hardware?
Well, I mean,
or something different?
Well, it depends. So on our Gravity is a whole new architecture. We haven't really talked a lot about it yet, but
the software or the hardware or the electronics or both?
Really either, but I can tell you a bit about it. So, with Air, we have with our Sapphire, we have kind of a newer platform than the original Air launched with. This is newer still. It's based on a state-of-the-art, brand new chip coming out from one of our partners. We have a hypervisor running on it to give us the ability to run some sort of safety critical code, at the same time have a guest operating system on top. The state of the silicon is advanced to the point now where you don't really pay a huge performance penalty for that, so we can really separate things and we can containerize things and really have a much more modern architecture than we could in the past, largely driven by the hardware architecture that we've chosen for the vehicle. And then so we have the safety critical items, and then we also have the user interface items. We're running just like we do today. We have the open source version of Android, but really the operating system is open source Android. Everything else is in-house. So we've essentially worked with the chipset provider. We've taken their port, we've hardened it, we've done a lot of work to it, and then we've added all the layers on top of it to really make it Lucid.
So can you say who that chipset provider is?
We haven't said yet, so I'd have to check. We can check if I'm allowed to say that.
Okay.
Contractually, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say. So,
well, see what industries enter 2024, and we're going to be going to do a technology deep dives all through the year. So a lot of the information will come out at some point soon, but as of right now, we aren't at liberty.
Well, what I can tell you is Sapphire, which is the most amazing car I've ever driven. That has a platform based on a Qualcomm chip, which is much faster than the chip we built with the original Air, and you really see the performance in the Sapphire is much snappier, just much a bit richer because
is that for the digital cockpit part?
The digital cockpit, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as the EE architecture goes, is it a more centralized computer architecture, zonal?
Yeah. Well, so what we've done is, the original Air, we had 70 plus computers in the car. Some of them are door controllers and window controllers, but we've even brought some of that in-house. We've centralized things more. We have combined functions into fewer units so that we have better economies of scale, and also just fewer devices, better cost, better weight, it turns out. And we have redone our so it's an Ethernet ring-based kind of, not ring, it's Ethernet, a gigabit Ethernet topology with gateways that gateway to the legacy automotive buses. We've optimized those, so we have fewer of those as well. It's really, we took all the lessons we learned from Air and just made it, that much better. So it's a derivative of Air, but it's just, faster and fewer parts and more reliable and fewer components.
Okay. Going back to the software for a moment, one of the things that we're seeing, I asked earlier about, kind of this middleware type of approach with the APIs. Is that the approach of having APIs for the application layers, the things that consumers see or interact with? Is that something that you're doing in your software?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, so
APIs, to get to the hardware rather than having applications directly read sensors.
Of course. What we've done is, so we have the base Android, and base Android gives you certain system services you can rely upon. We've created a framework layer that everything that you see in the car sits on top of, so the applications don't hit the hardware directly. They're abstracted. So the cool thing about that is, of course, if we were to change the underlying hardware, we don't have to rewrite the software, because it's that middle layer that gives us the abstraction, but so the applications are agnostic to the platform.
And as the industry in general kind of moves in that direction, one of the challenges for partners, because obviously there's always going to be some things that some parts of the software that you're not going to do in-house. You're going to rely on partners, presumably anyway. And for those supplier partners, having different APIs from every manufacturer is a challenge. And recently we saw GM contribute their API definitions from Altify into the Kavisa effort. Is that a direction that Lucid is looking at going towards, at least standardizing the APIs?
I don't think so. I mean, honestly, first of all, we have very few suppliers who supply pieces to us that would touch that API. We literally do all that technology in-house.
Oh, okay.
So the cool thing is, and it's one of our strengths, because we can then worry about the exact details. We can optimize it for the performance or for the features or whatever we want to do. The people like to standardize APIs because that way they can farm things out, and it makes it easier for third parties to write stuff. If you're not a technology company and you can't do it all yourself, those APIs become important. We do it all ourselves. I mean, so we have the strength and we have the technical know-how to really move fast and manage our own destiny that way. So it's not a big benefit to us to farm out those APIs, because frankly, we wouldn't make very much use of it.
Okay.
We've been proud to just introduce you to Eric Bach, our chief engineer.
Hi, Eric. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, another thing around the software-defined vehicle, one of the things that we hear a lot about is moving towards subscription revenue models for consumers. And is that something that Lucid is looking at, having features available on demand for customers that they can subscribe to?
It's something we've looked at. I tell you, I've seen the experiments where people have tried to make customers pay for like heated seats and things like that. I mean, that seems a little absurd. I think there could be something in the future where, you don't have to pay for the feature initially when you buy the car, but you could subscribe to it. We're open to something like that, but it would have to make sense. We build a luxury vehicle. We don't want our customers to think we're nickel and diming them for something they should get as part of the car. But, I think that is one of those holy grails that people have been trying to figure out, as well as how to monetize data. Like, those are the two things that everyone talks about, but no one's really come up with a good way to do it yet.
What about things like, you got your Dream Drive ADAS?
Yeah.
And as that progresses and adds more capability.
We could do that. We could do that. I mean, certainly. And in fact, we've built the car in such a way that we can enable and disable features over the air. So one of the fundamental things for us is almost every part of the car is updatable over the air. And it's just, it's from day one, that was something we built in. We can turn features on and off over the air with a flick of the switch. So we have the infrastructure to enable it for something like that. And really it becomes, what's the business model? What's the price point? How are we trying to incentivize people to, buy the feature? But yeah, we have that capability.
Okay. Eric, since you're here as chief engineer on the vehicle, what, for just the second vehicle from a new automaker, it sounds like you've made some pretty fundamental changes going from Air. Well, actually, you can go from the original Air to Sapphire and now to Gravity. You talk a little bit about, kind of what's driving those changes, and what are some of the highlights of what has changed as you've gone from the original Air to the Gravity?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it was a huge step actually to get Gravity on the ground, and we wanted to make a true SUV, and that's why we've fundamentally redesigned the architecture. So we didn't just prop up the Air platform as other cars do it. We fundamentally designed it as a true SUV with functionality and then the ride and handling and utility in mind. The key element that is in this car that defines the space inside is our space concept, where we again have a cab-forward design. We maximize the leg room in all 3 rows. We have a super intelligent folding seating arrangement that now enables an immense amount of storage space. You have a fold-flat second row that actually ducks down to the same height as the rear sill entry. The third row seat folds back down, and everything is one big surface, and you can now pack a whole apartment's worth of IKEA goods into the trunk if you're moving in, right? So the fundamental target was to make a really spacious vehicle within the exterior dimensions shorter than our direct competitors.
So, as an SUV, what is the target for Lucid with this vehicle? Obviously, maybe I shouldn't say obviously. I don't think you're necessarily trying to compete with a Jeep Wrangler. But what's true? What do you see as this vehicle? What is the range of what you're trying to accomplish with the Gravity?
Yeah, I would say our competitive set is for the premium to luxury SUVs above $65,000, $70,000. It's the 2-row and the 3-row versions of the major players, whether they're in Germany or Detroit.
Mm-hmm. So, off-roading, for example, how far would you, or what would be the upper or the limit of the off-road capability of a car like Gravity?
Well, as you said, it's not like a Jeep Wrangler. It's not a true off-roader, but it's an extremely capable SUV. As you see in our video, we can make the car jump. Of course, you need to be a trained driver, right? You can get things wrong. It can power slide through the desert. It can dune crawl, dune drive. It can rock crawl to a certain extent. We've changed the gear ratio on our drive units to a smaller gear ratio so that you've got more torque at every single wheel, which helps us with rock crawling or steep inclines, as well as towing capability, where we've now put 6,000 pounds of towing capability on there, on top of the 1,500 pounds of extra mass that you can put into the car.
As the second platform for a startup manufacturer, was trying to make it easier to manufacture and reduce the cost of manufacturing a major element of what you looked at in developing this vehicle?
Of course. So, as you remember, we started the Lucid Air with a very small team, and we brought it to a market in a really short time after the funding came through. And we've enhanced the capabilities. We've got a much larger engineering team. We've got all the lessons learned from Air, and of course we've paid assiduous attention to detail in terms of target costing, designing smarter. Now you've got more eyes to engineer a fundamentally better vehicle, do some benchmarking on things that don't really make the car excel. There are just standard topics that you can get wrong or right, and we've got the majority of them right, I hope, or everything. So we fundamentally designed to cost and DFM, design for manufacturing, on this vehicle.
Are you, from a structural standpoint, are you leveraging some of the things that other companies are doing around large-scale castings, things like that?
We have pretty significant castings already in Air. They're maybe not to the extent of what some other companies do, but they're quite substantial. And we have done the same on Gravity. It's still a low-volume car compared to those that you're talking about. So you may not see the return on investment on this mega big thing in our segment. But we've got large castings. We are working on lean manufacturing technologies and processes. It's again a full aluminum body structure that's even more efficient than on Air. So yeah, we're paying a lot of attention to reducing cost and making it the right manufacturing technology for its volume and segment.
So, question for both of you to respond to. The HMI, the human machine interface, how has that evolved from things you learned from Air to this vehicle, both in software and hardware perspective?
Well, I think a couple things. So from the hardware perspective, Derek's design team and Eric's engineering team have done a really great design of moving the cluster up a bit, but still giving you perfect line of sight out of the car, so it's not obstructed by the steering wheel. And that gives us the flexibility to have a much richer set of information there because it's not blocked. We also got a lot of feedback on air around what people liked and didn't like. It's interesting. We have customers who are coming from, I'll say, analog cars who just want simple, and we have tech customers who want every bell and whistle. So we're trying to provide a curated experience. We don't want to provide every option for everybody and just throw it on the wall. We try to provide what we think is a curated experience, but we also are providing more power user features. We're providing better multitasking. So one of the things we heard about from our Air customers was, I like to have one thing running on this screen and one thing running on what we call the pilot panel.
Right.
We're doing that now. So we're giving you the option to really use it like an Air or customize it if you're a power user. And it's really hard to do. It's hard to...
Yeah, that was one of the limitations on the Air is, often you would have basically the same information on both screens. And
the idea behind that originally was an application could use both pieces of real estate to provide more information,
right?
Which some customers love. And some customers really, as we were just saying, want different things. We just shipped a software update this week that provides more multitasking in the Air. You have a widget on the instrument cluster that now gives you whatever app is in the background. It now shows you that information on the cluster. So you have a pseudo multitasking kind of environment, which is a step towards what we're providing in Gravity, which is a fully new user experience. We call it User Experience 3.0.
Okay. And not to forget the compute hardware.
Yes.
We are many years on from when we started Air. So
yeah, it's state-of-the-art compute hardware. We were talking about it earlier. It really gives us the flexibility to provide a much richer experience. And some of the things that I'm sure you saw with the modes where you can have kind of the outside coming to your car while you charge. A lot of this is really made possible by our more advanced hardware in the car.
And the shift to the OLED display, is that one continuous display or?
One continuous OLED and a magnesium die-cast housing, super thin, it's like 5 millimeters thick on the perimeter. We've just evolved from our LCD, which was a compound curvature, tapered design, already super classy, super unique. We've now taken that to the next level by investing in a custom OLED panel for us.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's an amazing display.
And then
both panels are actually OLED.
Okay. The pilot panel is also OLED?
Yes, you get an ultra-high contrast ratio, which helps us with the digital detox.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I liked about the Air was the balance of retaining some degree of physical controls for features like climate control that you may use frequently.
Yeah. So we have kept that philosophy because we got so overwhelmingly positive feedback from our customers that they said everybody else is going into screens only, or there are some others that have way too many buttons. So we're trying to find that sweet spot where you get everything that you really need to access quickly on a push of the button, and you get a great haptic response. So we still have the control blade under the pilot panel, and we've got now customizable buttons so that you can say, I want to start every morning with a massage. You put your massage on the customizable button,
nice.
And then that switches on immediately.
Yeah.
We've got a good level of seat controls because just making a quick adjustment, why would you go into a screen menu? The same with the windows and so on. So, and we have stalks. Mm-hmm. So there is a big division around stalks, but we got overwhelming feedback. Thank you for keeping stalks, and thank you for not chopping the top round half of your steering wheel and so on. So there are many customer feedbacks that we've taken to heart, and we've honed in, as said, with these customizable button features.
Okay. And it's harder to do what we've done. Having just everything be a touch control is kind of easy. Having a mixture of physical controls and touch controls means everything has to stay in sync. That you can't be surprised. You can't have things that are showing different status. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of extra work. But I think it's one of the best features of the car because people they don't feel overwhelmed. It feels natural. At the same time, if you like touch, you have that option as well.
And for me personally, as someone who actually enjoys driving, being able to have some physical controls, to have muscle memory, so I'm not constantly looking for a touch target on the screen, I think is a real benefit.
I mean, the volume roller for me is my favorite. I mean, I change the volume all the time, and I would hate to have to use a slider to do that. Although anyway, that volume roller to me is just, it of course it should have that.
Hey, Peter. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Nice job. Just talking to your team here. It's done a great thing here with the Gravity.
Huge team effort. It's going to be just next level everything. Next level physical and hardware, and next level digital as well.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, it's unprecedented. It's the packaging, it's the interior space, the utility, and the drivability. And then we've got the new UX with the panoramic clear view cockpit, 34-inch curved OLEDs, single piece. And that just opens up a whole world of opportunities for the user interface and driver engagement. This is next level. And then just like, you know, just using the Frunk innovative leaf just to give it an extra level of fun and usability. It's just every part of the car. And I think particularly I'm really pleased the way the seating because the seating has defined the car. What you may not be aware of is that this green car's got full 3-row seating. Mm-hmm. People think, oh, well, that's just the 2-row and it's folded flat. We want to put one side up, as you were thinking, Eric, to show the full 3-row seating car folds flat like that, and it's got about 7'6" bed. It's unprecedented in terms of usability and practicality. So you've got these disparate attributes: practicality, usability, utility, and then you've got luxury, then you've got range, performance, driving pleasure, speed of charging, technology. I mean, it's just like the impossible all fused together.
Well, thank you so much, Peter.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations. The one last thing I want to touch on before I let you go is driver assist. You've got a very robust suite of sensors on the car. Is one of the first vehicles on the Air was one of the first vehicles to come to market with LiDAR, the standard equipment. Is the driver assist, the Dream Drive package, something that's being developed entirely in-house at Lucid?
It is.
And how's that progressing? And kind of what's your roadmap for that over the next couple of years?
Yeah, you're going to see more and more Dream Drive features get added to both Air and, of course, Gravity when it ships. I will say our philosophy is we don't believe in our customers being beta testers for something like this. We take safety very seriously. We're rolling out features as we have a chance to really perfect them and get them to the point where we think that they're worthy of us shipping as part of the car, and we don't put the user in any sort of danger. Gravity now has even more advanced hardware than Air had, in the theme of updating everything, much more extensive compute hardware, the same kind of sensor suite in many of the trims. And Gravity will, you'll see over the course of the next year, new features come out for Air, and then Gravity will take that to the next level again.
Will some of the things that you've talked about around the compute and the EE architecture be rolled into Air as a running change at some point, or maybe with the next generation?
So we haven't defined that yet. Obviously, we now have a portfolio that we have on Air, and we have the Gravity versions, and we can decide at any given point when you have the resource, when there may be the market demand to switch over. But right now, the product stand as they are, we think they're awesome. We're just setting the next milestone with Gravity.
Well, I really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts, anything we haven't talked about that should be considering about the Gravity, what you've done here?
I think it's really important to see that we are achieving over 440 miles of range with a fairly moderate battery pack size. And that's really, really important to understand. Peter tried to bring the point across in the presentation. I hope it resonated. But just to make that point really clear, we have around 120 kilowatt hours of battery energy capacity. And then others are above 200 kilowatt hours to get in even close to the same range. And that means if they have almost twice the size of a battery pack in the car, it's almost twice as heavy. The car gets heavier, less fun to drive, more expensive, more raw materials, more mining of whatever goes into the battery, less energy consumption in our car. So you need almost twice the amount of energy to recharge the car when both cars arrive at the same destination, which means if you can afford the electricity, great, but the total cost of ownership for some will mean something. But on top of that,
the power plants need to now produce almost twice as much energy, twice as much CO2 footprint, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do in the switch over to EVs. And that's why it's so fundamentally important to understand that battery pack size matters. The smaller it is with a longer range. And I think that is one of the key takeaways I think we need to get people to resonate with.
And it takes longer to charge the bigger battery pack. So it's like a bad non-virtuous circle, right? I mean, the only thing I would add is, I hope people understand we are a technology company, and it's the motors, the battery pack, and the aerodynamics, and the design, and the software, and the hardware. You can't do something like this if you're just a system integrator that a lot of other companies are. And we've kind of flown below the radar, but I mean, this is fundamental to us getting the range and having the room and the space. It really is. We think about it holistically. How do we provide that experience? And it's a lot of work, but that's what you have to do to get something like this.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Great meeting you.
Eric Bach.
Thank you.
Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now, wherever you get your podcasts.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.